ever seen one of those graphs of human history? You know the one, where for thousands of years, progress is just this slow, steady, almost flat line, and then all of a sudden, bam, it just goes vertical? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into a really fascinating theory from our source material about a single year that might just be the reason for that explosion.
Okay, so let's jump right in. For literally 5,000 years, human progress was kind of slow and steady. I mean, you had empires, the Renaissance, big stuff, for sure, but growth was pretty incremental. Then, right around the mid-1800s, something fundamentally changes. The whole curve just bends and shoots straight up. This is what our source calls the Great Acceleration.
So you have to ask, right? What was the trigger? Why then? And why was it so sudden? Well, according to the source material we're looking at, this was no accident. It was the result of two incredibly powerful and seemingly totally separate forces being unleashed at almost the exact same moment.
So here's how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll look closer at that Great Acceleration. Then we'll break down the two forces, material and spiritual. We'll zero in on why 1844 is so important. And finally, we'll talk about this idea of a cycle of fulfillment and what it all means for us today.
All right, let's start with the first force. This is the one that's a little easier to see, maybe a bit more obvious. It was this sudden, totally unprecedented explosion in humanity's ability to do things, physically and intellectually. See, the source makes this really interesting point that progress wasn't just about new inventions. It was sparked by the meeting of two things: a material force, the actual tools to change the world, and a spiritual force, which gave us the vision, the why, and a moral compass to guide it all. So on the material side, it was like a perfect storm of innovation. You had the Industrial Revolution hitting its stride, scientists were sharing knowledge like never before, but then came the real game changer, the power to send a message, a thought, instantly across a huge distance. And this one message, I think, just captures the whole shift perfectly. May 24th, 1844, Samuel Morse sends this from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. And just think about that. For the first time in all of human history, an idea traveled faster than a person on a horse. The world literally shrank overnight.
Okay, so that's the material explosion. Now let's look at the second force, which our source says is the absolutely essential partner to all that new technology. This is about a new spiritual vision, a whole new chapter for what humanity is trying to do together. And this is where it gets really incredible. Just 2 days before Morse sent that telegraph message, halfway across the planet, in Persia, a young merchant named Syed Ali Muhammad made this world-changing declaration. He took the title of the Bab, which means the gate, and said he was opening a new spiritual age for all humankind.
Now, to really get the weight of that statement, we need to quickly unpack this term from the source: dispensation. Just think of it like a new chapter in our collective spiritual story. It's kicked off by a divine messenger who brings fresh ideas and teachings that are right for the times.
So how does a spiritual force like this actually work? Well, the source connects it to this really powerful concept you actually see everywhere, from religion to sociology. It's the idea that some words, when they're spoken with a certain authority, don't just talk about reality, they actually create a new one.
And this isn't some abstract theoretical thing. I mean, you see it in religious texts like, "Let there be light." But we do this all the time. When someone in authority says, "I now pronounce you married," bam, a new social reality is created. When a group writes a manifesto, they forge a new identity for themselves. Words have real power to build things.
So here's where it all comes together. What happens when you take these two events, a massive technological leap on one side and this profound spiritual declaration on the other, and you put them on the very same timeline?
And there it is. Look at that, 48 hours, half a world apart. In one spot, an event happens that releases a new vision for where humanity is headed spiritually, and in the other, an event releases the physical tools needed to actually connect all of humanity into one single conversation. It's incredible. This alignment right here, this is the heart of the whole theory. It's like humanity got a massive software update and a brand new hardware upgrade all at once. We got the vision of oneness and at the same time the tools for connection. We got the idea of a global consciousness, and hey, here's instant communication to make it possible. And maybe most importantly, we got a new moral compass to help us navigate this powerful global network we were about to build. So what's the big deal? What's the ultimate point of this convergence? Well, according to the source, this moment wasn't just another blip in history. It was the starting gun for humanity's collective coming of age.
This new era has a name: the cycle of fulfillment.
And the idea is that while a lot of past spiritual teachings were for a specific group of people or a certain part of the world, this one is different. This one is for everybody, for the whole planet. It's about fulfilling promises that were made way back in ancient times, but now on a global scale. You can kind of think of it like this. Humanity went through its collective childhood and then its teenage years in all those earlier cycles. Now we're finally entering our collective adulthood. We are, essentially, growing up as a species.
And if you had to boil down the entire purpose of this new era of maturity, it all comes down to a single number, 1. It stands for the recognition, the establishment of the oneness of the human race. The idea that we're not just a bunch of separate tribes and nations anymore, but one single, interconnected human family.
Okay, so this is a cool way to look at history, but what does it mean for us right here, right now? Well, according to the source, the fundamental question for humanity has changed. We've moved past can we connect the world to will we unite it? The focus is now on conscious action.
We've got the tools, we've got the vision. So now, the job is to actually use them, consciously. And that means working on things like sustainable tech, creating fair global systems for human rights, designing education that teaches us we're all one, and building communities that remind us of our responsibility to each other.
And this really brings it all home, to a personal level. The big takeaway is a call for all of us to participate. It means we should be using technology not just because it's cool, but as a tool to build real unity. It means before we build anything new, we have to ask not just can we, but should we? And it means remembering that our words, our actions, they really do help create the world we all have to live in.
So that leaves us with this one final powerful idea to chew on. If this theory is right, if the material tools and the spiritual vision for a united world were really set in motion way back in 1844, then the ball is in our court. The question isn't whether a united world is possible anymore. The question is, what part are you, what part are we going to play in steering these powerful forces to make it a reality?